It's been a minute since I got a chance to really talk about what's going on in the world outside of the entertainment stuff. It does feel good to be back. But I have to comment on this because a lot of you guys came to me. I would say I probably saw my biggest boost like over that year, 2020. I was so ahead of a lot of what happened with this pandemic, or lack thereof, whatever it is that you want to call it. And a lot of people came to my material based on me just talking about it, and that's how they discovered me. I do want to talk about this because these crack smokers are about to try it again. Now, this criminal who again, I say belongs under the prison because of his words being really what drove a lot of the policies in this country. I'm not saying that he himself had the power. Effectively he did, but he himself had the power to do shutdowns and lockdowns and all that. But they certainly listened to him in terms of their recommendations. Now, you can make a criticism. I've made my criticisms of Trump and the phenomena of him continuing to parade this idiot around, mainly because he wanted to seemingly take credit for solving the problem through the jabs, which you're seeing now more than ever. They don't necessarily do what they were presented to do. But listen to what this weirdo had to say. He's on the face of the nation. This rat-faced idiot. Let's listen to him real quick. We'll turn my audio. Let's listen to what he got to say.
So coming out of the holidays, should parents expect schools to shut down?
I don't know, Margaret. I'm not sure. When you talk about shutting down schools, there's always the collateral
That's also
effects.
radioactive.
Let me say this real quick. Let me pause it real quick. The fact that he just couldn't say absolutely not, considering the criminal behavior that took place when the schools did shut down, and that this was something that was unanimous. Y'all know how I feel about public schools. I don't know why y'all still dropping y'all's knothead kids off to these institutions, but it also applied to private schools as well in terms of the lockdowns or shutdowns that were government, of course, induced, and basically saying that it was illegal for kids to be present in school. Of course, more and more studies or whatever observations are coming out. You're seeing kids are at a, from an educational perspective, learning perspective, developmental, they're behind because of what they had to endure during that year. There's ramifications that are going to be in existence for decades, not just with that, but economically, of course, as well as some other ramifications with what you guys did to yourselves because you were scared or the government scared you, effectively the same thing, whatever it is. I think there comes a point in time when you were presented with what the truth was. A lot of y'all still clung to the lies a little too long, making the people around you miserable by advocating that they continue these policies. But this guy, Ratface here, he knows all that. He knows the disastrous impact that this stuff has had on kids, and he's not willing to say no. What he will go on to say.
Collateral issue. So you have to balance, and you do it in real time, depending upon the viral load of disease in your region.
So he's not saying that it's off the table. He's just basically saying that, well, you have to kind of weigh your options here, talking about viral loads in the community. It's the same crap that he was saying years ago or a couple years ago. It's the same crap. It's nothing different. He's going to then in a minute open up about different regions and maybe they have different policies from people on the opposite side of the coast.
It's the
same
upper
thing.
Northeast may be quite different from the Southwest, from the Pacific coast, from the upper Northwest. So you have to have the local authorities evaluate on a situation by situation basis.
So he's not right. He's not willing to write it off. He's not even condemning the act, right? He knows this. He knows better than anyone the effect that this stuff had, particularly on these young folk. Now, I'd make the argument that, a lot of y'all had a golden opportunity to really, I would say, tear down the public educational system, which it needs to be in this country during that period of time. This may be an opportunity that you never get again. And I don't like that people, of course, didn't take that opportunity to dismantle it because you saw the fundamental issues. Then you went into that, and then you saw what they're teaching your kids, for that matter. You missed a golden opportunity. But what I want you to more so focus on with Fauci is that nothing's off the table regarding terrible policies that were implemented upon his own direction. What he recommended that areas do. We're entering into the winter, and these fools are about to try to do it again. They're going to try to do it again. That's the crazy thing. They're attempting to do it again. Now, it's going to be much harder, much more difficult to get away with it. Maybe not the case in New York, maybe, or California, but certainly in the South and areas like that, it's going to be very difficult to do that ever again. And I guess the theme here, and what I want people to focus on, is just the overall concept of what the state is, what the state's, not their constituents, but more of the people that act as the agents of the state. The Faucis, the propaganda wings, how they feel about you and how comfortable they are. You would think if this country was even remotely valued liberty, this guy would have been mocked and shamed out of existence. He himself would have come to the realization, it is not best for me, number one, to be in this position, but to go around parading failed policy that were very destructive. He doesn't feel that way. Yes, there's a side in America that still kind of praises him, maybe a little less to what they did before. He was a superstar in 2020. But he feels comfortable with just saying what he's saying. He's like, yeah, man, it is what it is. See, I want y'all to look at that and apply that to every aspect of what the state's in control of. Where everybody knows that, it's funny, people talk about the corruption of the state and the government and all. That's the easy position to say the government is corrupt. Like, okay, the nitty gritty starts to happen when you start to ask that individual that feels the government is corrupt what they believe is the more preferable thing, right? Because I don't think this is necessarily simply left versus the American right. I think what this is more so on a liberty scale, okay? And there are people that are on the two dominating sides of this. Those that want the government to do more and those that want the government to do less. And obviously, I fall on the latter. But those that feel that way should look at this as an example of how they are simply not the state, just in how it exists. And yeah, we're going to get a little philosophical here. They're not incentivized to do the right thing. Fauci's, what is he, still the most paid, like the highest paid governmental or federal government employee. There's been zero consequences to any of his actions. The money that he gets is not dependent on the job, a good job that he does. It's not dependent. None of the state's money is that way. The state gets its money from robbery. The state gets its money from theft, acts of aggression, right? That's what it is. So what the state is, it's not government simply. It's a territorial monopoly on use of force, violence, and ultimate decision making. That's what it is. And he is one of their agents. So his bottom line is not dependent on how good of a job he does, because the institution that he is the agent of doesn't get their money like that. They don't get their money voluntarily. The government can suck, and it doesn't matter. They're still going to get their money because, well, they're holding effectively guns to people's heads, okay? What I don't like is how people look at folks like him and think that these idiots have what's in the best interest of the people, of a geographical area as massive as the United States of America. And that's why it's so frustrating, or is because I guess it impacts those that are around you. That stuff has consequences, right? When you guys parade these idiots around, right? You hype them up. You make their heads bigger than what they already are. See, that then starts to impact me in my life, right? Then you guys saw that in 2020 as you saw these idiots advocate that you be shut down, locked down. They called you grandma killer, and then they tried to coerce you into getting a jab that didn't even do what they initially said the damn thing was supposed to do, right? What they got their emergency authorization for, right, in terms of stopping or rather preventing the spread, rather transmission is determined. And then they come out months later. You got Rochelle Walensky saying, well, what we know now is that it does not do that. Wait a minute. And then you find that some of the testing with Pfizer is like, well, to be honest, we technically didn't even test for that. These fools lied. Simple as that. And of course, they're going to continue to look the American people in the face and advocate it again because they've seen zero consequences for their actions.